in order to deliver something larger than what are my current capabilities, I need to be part of some team, right? Because I cannot just do it as a lone wolf all the
Correct.
time.
Yeah.
And this also motivated me to join, KPMG, Atos, Deloitte, and just get maybe a grasp of like larger corporations. And maybe to just pinpoint one last one would be the first startup.
Hello, everyone. Uh, so I hope everyone is doing great. I think uh, big welcome to all of you. Welcome to Beyond Code. It's a series, a podcast series where we try to explore some remarkable journey of tech leaders and how are we unraveling their secrets and the insights that have propelled them to the success that they are currently having. And what we're trying to do is in each episode we dive deep into their stories, their experiences, and what lessons they have learned along the way, and try to get a little bit inspired by their narratives and how these extraordinary leaders have shaping the future of for technology. And yeah, so this is our the entire motive of these episodes. And yeah, so talking about some incredible leaders, without further ado, let me introduce you to our guest today, Jacob. We fondly call him Kuba. He's the VP of Engineering at EOS.1, and he's also he wears multiple hats. He's a security analyst, he's an ethical hacker, he's a data analyst, he's also a consultant. So he's doing many things, and he's been successful at those things. He's currently based out of Singapore, and he's leading a tech team at EOS.1 who kind of they create a POS devices network and trying to evolve from being a product to a larger platform, right? And apart from being one of the tech leaders, Kuba is also a nature and a health freak. He loves running, sports in general, hiking, and all those things, right? And at heart, I think there's one thing common between Kuba and myself is we both are you know at heart we are mentors, and we try to share or impart as much as knowledge as we have to other people, right? And we'll try to utilize that. Kuba, thank you so much for being with us. It's been uh, quite fascinating to read about your amazing work that you have done till now. And I hope through this podcast we can bring out some of amazing insights that you have within you.
Cool. Amitesh, thanks a lot for the intro. I was blushing the whole time. Like the point of this podcast is also to make sure that everyone knows that it's not a big deal, right? That there's like some path to get there. Thanks for the invitation. Really a lot. I hope that I can just help the listeners who might be, for example, even at early stages at their career, to just
Mhm.
see my own career pathway, right? And see pretty much what's beyond my LinkedIn profile. So probably also failures included, right? And
Absolutely,
maybe share
absolutely.
the ups and downs of my career.
Yeah, and Kuba, I think the larger motive of this podcast is to guide or to be the guiding light of people who are actually watching this. And I think most of our audience is they are in the early stages of their career, right? And add to them what it entails to be leaders like you. And I'm sure it's not just the coding part of it, it's something beyond code, right? And hence we actually called it beyond code because we understand that it takes something else to be a great leader, in fact, in this industry, right? So yeah, we'll try to explore that with your journey. And yeah, so let's get started, Kuba.
Totally,
Well, I think
totally. And
just to kind of
whoever I can
give
help
my
to take the plunge, I'll be super happy to. Yeah. So back to you.
perfect. Perfect. So Gopa, I think you aptly mentioned, right? We have to be guiding light for people who are in their early careers, right, and initial, right. So one important aspect of today's career is what kind of education background they are coming from, right? So just want to kind of pick your brains on what is the importance of someone's education background, or might be their lack of it, right? Who are trying to take a path in technology career, and maybe we can touch upon how was your education background and how it influenced your career at the early stage.
Mm, mm. Thanks. And generally, I would say that the career started before the educational background. So I was like freelancing a lot, and probably as many
Mhm,
engineers at that time, I was developing web pages, right, and doing a lot of other techie stuff even before getting some formal education. So a lot of learning by doing was
mhm,
involved at that stage. And I was doing that during like primary, maybe high school, and it already like got me a lot of hands-on experience.
mhm,
It's also worth to say that my background is not in engineering, but I was studying statistical specialization. So my background is actually in statistics and data modeling.
mhm, mhm.
Probably, even during university years, it was the first time I discovered my passion for math, because previously I was
Okay.
really into software engineering, but tried to not touch
Mhm,
math at all, right? And
mhm,
only when I kind of discovered for myself that in order to productionalize some machine learning or statistical models to turn it into some product, etc.,
mhm,
I started to shape up my software engineering and DevOps skills, right? So with me, it was really a lot of things at the beginning, learning by doing, freelancing. When I got my formal background, it was actually in statistics. And when I started to
mhm.
see that I cannot develop a product without some software engineering or DevOps skills, I started to study that. Yeah.
Yeah, so to all the non-engineers there who are not studying engineering, but it's all about kind of identifying your passion and
True.
understanding what you want to do, and how will eventually follow, right? Because you identified that what you actually wanted to solve, right? And then you
Totally.
discovered that to solve this you should be learning software development, and hence you landed into this, right? So, Kuba, you briefly mentioned that at the beginning of your career, just when you were exploring things, right? Your passion and all the stuff that you're trying to do. You picked up a lot of freelancing opportunities, right? So just wanted to kind of touch upon those opportunities, right? Uh, how did you identify what kind of opportunities may give you a better prospect in future, or maybe some of the opportunities might be some they will play a very pivotal role in shaping your career. Can you just bring some light into what those
Yeah.
opportunities are? Yeah.
Yeah. So I would generally say that like whatever was innovative and whatever was pretty much the buzzword at that time, right?
Mhm,
So when I
mhm,
started like my freelancing career, everyone was into social media, and in particular like mining social media and obtaining data, maybe pairing it up to their
okay.
customer databases, etc. And most likely like the value that I could bring at that time, that I was really like ready to get my hands dirty with some new
Mhm,
area that potentially
mhm,
like other people did not yet understand or could like
mhm,
benefit from that. So even pretty sincerely, like my strategy at that time was really to look for these either emerging or like niche areas where I could still provide something innovative, right? And maybe I was also like sharing this with like other colleagues and also publicly
mhm,
in the past. Huge thing was really looking for projects that can like help me move
mhm,
forward with
mhm.
my skill set, right? So I have to be very sincere that during the freelancing career, I was broke, but I was broke on purpose. I just wanted to earn only as much to just keep me up and running until the next month, and I was doing that just
Mhm,
so that I have also enough time to be a bookworm, to
mhm,
take a look at a lot of MOOC courses, like study some maybe more exotic like programming languages and really, get broader and understand the big picture, right? So I think that just as a design principle, doing innovative stuff and maybe like prioritizing your personal development as long as you make enough to cover your monthly expenses could be a way.
Yeah, I think interesting you spoke about being intentionally broke, Kuba, because it gives a lot of insight that at very early stages of your career, there are certain traits that holds priority over others, right? And when you are early in your career, sincerity and discipline, these are certain traits that kinds of sets you apart from the crowd, right? Because obviously there will be 100 people that might know certain languages, programming languages, right? But the dedication or the sincerity which some of them will show will come eventually. They will come, come up winner from that lot, right? And I think I
Yeah.
really when you emphasize that you were intentionally broke but you were a bookworm and you went through a lot of courses, I think our audience should kind of take that as a as a lesson that it's about getting yourself disciplined and sincere by, especially in early stages of your career, right?
And exactly, and it's really like something that I still like have it, but I currently use it more
Mm-hmm.
mindfully, right? Because it's also like
Mm-hmm.
no way to live probably your entire life, because you also need to do stuff. You cannot just like study and do like
Correct.
some toy prototypes. But I can tell that like the amount of knowledge that I've like gathered at the beginning really like set
Mm-hmm.
a very solid foundation to build on top later on. And
Yep.
once you like discipline yourself in this way, then you can like
Mm-hmm.
activate it in other parts of your life, right? Because now you can be like focused
Mm-hmm.
fully on your professional career, but maybe sometimes later you want to get a PhD, right? Or you want to learn some completely new
Mm-hmm.
area. And as long
Mm-hmm.
as you keep this like spirit fresh, you can just
Mm-hmm.
activate it when it's necessary, and maybe
Mm-hmm.
have like, I don't know, half a year, 1 year of some sabbatical and really like get into, I don't know, quantum computing, right? And really understand it.
Maybe, yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. I think interesting. I think you mentioned that, right? This had a huge impact in your career, Gopa, and I'm sure that this may not be one of the because we generally, when we are trying to see a success of a career, we try to define it with milestones, right? This is a big milestone or this is a
Mhm.
small milestone. These are milestones, right? I just kind of want to understand from you whether you had certain milestones or bigger milestones within your career,
Mm.
or it was like your career was filled up with small events, or small milestones that kind of evolved into a bigger picture later on. Just try to
Mm.
understand what are those moments where you felt that, yeah, maybe this is something that we are getting up to, right?
Mm. So I'll probably start like with the university years, because even when I was studying like my bachelor's degree, I started to have a
Mm-hmm.
huge passion of education. It was for education, sorry, because it was also
Mm-hmm.
time when MOOC started to be popular, and I was really like sucked into it, right? And
Mm-hmm.
spending every
Mm-hmm.
moment I could, well, like with some new area. And actually, right after, or even like on the verge of getting my bachelor's and then master's, I opened up my first course. It had to be like guaranteed by another professor, right, who really need to like sign up that he trusts me enough
Nice.
to
Mm-hmm.
transfer
Mm-hmm.
the knowledge to students. But really like being in this lecture hall, in front of smart people, asking sneaky
Mm-hmm.
questions, really like battle tested my
Mm-hmm.
knowledge, right? And kind of maybe built my sense
Right.
of knowing that at different stages in my life, and I can be the
Mm-hmm.
mentor, I can be the mentee, maybe have some peer-to-peer discussion. And yeah, and this is something that I really value until now, right? And there were many university courses afterwards. So this one would be probably one milestone that I have in my head, and it really stayed with me like strongly. Uh, I would say other ones would be things like, for example, the first big client that I got like as a freelancer, in an insurance company, where I actually
Yeah.
understood that in order to to deliver something larger than what are my current capabilities, I need to be part of some team, right? Because I cannot just do it as a lone wolf all the
Correct.
time.
Yeah, yeah,
And this also motivated me to join, KPMG, Atos, Deloitte, and just get maybe a
yeah.
grasp of like larger corporations. And maybe to just pinpoint one last one would be the first startup. So we'll probably, or maybe we can touch later on also like on Creative
Yeah,
Dog
certainly.
and what I
Yeah.
was doing there. But generally, like starting something from scratch and seeing it like grow, scaling up, and then maybe even
Absolutely.
being like resold to someone, right? It really sets some foundation about how not to think only about technology, but about business as well.
Yeah, and it's a great transition, Kuba. I think you mentioned very aptly, right? And a lot of first there, right? First mentor, first client, first corporate, and then first startup. So I think the first is always the biggest,
Totally.
learning opportunities, for all of us, right? Be it like first company or first mentor, and I think I when you were saying, I got a hint that you realize that you are good at part imparting knowledge to others during that your first stint, right? When you were kind of learning your courses and everything, and you're trying to kind of learn yourself and teach others as well, right? So this is where I think you discovered your passion for
Totally.
imparting knowledge to
Totally.
others, and it's a huge
Totally.
good
And
transition.
yeah, yeah. And just want to mention that really the first moment is really important because it kind of keeps you moving, right?
Absolutely.
And once you do it like second time, third time, it becomes business as usual. You
It
already have the skill, right?
yeah, yeah.
But if you want to
Right,
grow
right,
as a person, you really have to
right.
like enter some areas
Mhm.
that you are uncomfortable with, right? And I have it the same
Yes.
now in my current role, right? There are like many firsts or many like new areas. But it's part of growth because if one wants or if I wanted to be comfortable, probably now I wouldn't be in Singapore. I would be
Yeah.
like in Europe and most likely managing larger and larger engineering teams, but not like learning anything new, right?
Yeah, I think I don't know, somebody's, it's a quote, right? I don't remember exactly who said it, right? And it kind of it had like, if you're waking up and you realize that there is nothing, that you are doing something for the first time, right? And then if there's something, nothing you're doing for the first time, then you're not moving forward, right? There always has to be something that you're doing for the first time, and then it gives you a zeal to move forward, right? And an amazing transition group, I think, in terms of what you have achieved in your career, right? From and I'll come to the transition, because you mentioned that from a student, then to first client, first corporate job, and
Hmm.
first entrepreneurship, right? Just want to, in that entire journey, just want to understand, when you were transitioning from an engineer, or maybe after engineering you become lead, and then you become the CTO of Contactco, right? So how was that journey, and how have you because now, see, after becoming an individual contributor, you lead a team, right? You have a team to manage, right? So how your leadership evolved through becoming becoming in CTO. What was your style during that transition?
Mm-hmm. So just like to give some general intro, both like Contacto and also Battery, which is another project that really is like close to my
Mm-hmm.
heart, where I actually started at Creative Dog, which is like a
Mm-hmm.
startup studio, right? And
Mm-hmm.
the way it
Mm-hmm.
was is that most of the time on these projects, I was like the first coder on the job, right? I was like responsible for developing the first like working prototype, maybe some minimum viable product. And at a certain stage, it started to either generating some revenue or have at least enough business potential so that someone is like willing to invest it, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then I could bring on board, or the team could bring on board people who are already like more capable in certain area than myself, right? So at the beginning I had to handle everything from software engineering to DevOps to front ends, maybe even to quality quality assurance, but at some time, like I cannot be like the best person in all of these areas. And wherever I felt like the major pain point, there could be someone more capable, right? And
Absolutely.
you were like talking about the transition, and I would say that it wasn't
Mhm,
easy at all, because there
mhm,
was like huge mess in my head right at that time. It
mhm.
was like that I loved coding. I wanted to do like everything and really like grow
Okay.
as an engineer. And all of a sudden, like having less time for coding, right? Like managing a team and not being able to just like directly follow this passion. It took me some time to actually figure out like where's my value, right? Or like what's my impact that I'm bringing other than hiring new engineers when the teams were scaling up.
Interesting. I think you mentioned, Kuba, right, that you missed, when you were CTO, you missed, coding, right? You missed what you love doing, right, in terms of uh, solving problems through software development, right? So did you find out that these are the things that when you look back, right? Now, obviously, now you have
Mm.
matured enough, being into leadership ship positions, right? So do you kind of, when you look back and realize that yes, these are the certain things that I might have done better in terms of when I was first transitioning into a CTO role? What can you kind
Mm.
of brief those things if you can highlight for us, Kuba?
Yeah, totally. So I think that I did all of the mistakes quite sincerely,
Mm-hmm.
So from like testing on production to really thinking that I have to be like the
Common.
most
Yeah.
experienced, most
I
experienced
agree.
person on the team
Completely
in
agree.
all of
Yes.
the areas, just doing like quality or automating quality assurance before we even had a working prototype, so everything was constantly changing and it was actually slowing down the development, right? So
Mm-hmm.
everything you can like imagine. Also, probably I wasn't like that great in, like, for example, delegating tasks, right? So
Agree.
just even like figuring out that
Mm-hmm.
even if there's someone more junior on the team, actually they also need to
Mm-hmm.
grow, right? And I need to like support them, and I cannot just I don't know, step in and like just refactor some code or something like that, right? So
Mm-hmm.
these were the beginnings. And also for myself, I and this is like fair to say, in my
Mm-hmm.
career, I multiple times like switched from individual contributor to someone like a technical
Mm-hmm.
leader, CTO, engineering manager, back and forth, because there was some
Oh.
period where I really felt that I'm missing a train, in some technology,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to get back to being an IC. Or I did it as a design decision just to even like understand how the new team works, and then being able to like step up, right? And once again, I needed to also figure out for myself like where am I actually bringing impact, or how I'm like bringing some value. And once it clicked in my head, I knew what I want to do, right? So I still code. I need to do it, but I currently
So
understand how
so
I'm bringing impact. Yeah.
I just want you to stay with us this thought only, Kuba, that you're doing back and forth with being a leader and kind of managing team, and after a certain period you come back again to kind of code, right? Because that's what you love, right? And not only it's a passion, but also it kinds of gives a larger insight into what an organization is doing, right? How is an organization behaving, right? And this same kind of exercise we also do at Recro, and we're trying to kind of every leadership, because obviously we are a candidate centric company. So what we try to do is every leader should go on the ground and start
Cool.
talking to the candidates, to our
Cool.
people, right? Because it's very important, even though you are maybe you are in sales, or maybe you are in a different finance, or maybe you are in HR, right? But it's your it's your duty to go on the ground once in a while and test how is the entire perception about Recro is, right? And then I think I can really relate to you when you say that every time you feel the need of kind of not only reinventing yourself, but also staying on the ground, trying to understand what your organization is, how you are yourself doing, right? It's a very important exercise. I think it gives a good insight to our audience who is listening, right? That you should always kind of keep doing what you love, right, and not kind of leave it to others to kind of invent you or reinvent it for yourself, right? Yeah, good. I think thank you
Awesome.
so much, bro,
Awesome.
for sharing this insight, right,
Aw-
in terms of
Awesome.
what you
And
did at.
I,
Yeah.
I love the way you are doing it at Recro. Just on to maybe elaborate a bit on the point. Even at Twisto, which was like the next milestone in my career,
Mm-hmm.
engineers were sometimes like part of customer support team just to even like see,
Mm-hmm.
how it works in the wild. And even for my particular role, when I was like transitioning, we just sat with the former CTO, and I told him like very sincerely that I don't want to start there like as a technical leader, but I want
Mm-hmm.
to join the team as an individual contributor because over a couple of months I will understand, the infrastructure architecture and the pain points much more better than when I could come there and
Absolutely.
just took over
Certainly.
management.
Yeah, certainly. I think it's very important to kind of have the pulse of what you are doing, right? And you briefly mentioned about and you were quite excited when you mentioned Vetri's stint, right? How you were doing a lot of cost cross in complex projects, solving a lot of problems. So just share your experience, right? Because you have been so I understand that you have been traveling a lot, right? In terms of when you were managing team at Vetri, right? So how was that experience, right, in terms of dealing with different cultures, different because a lot of our developers, right, they kind of interact with cross culture and cross functional teams, right? So just you can share your experience and what are the important things that they should be kind of be cognizant about, right, when they are dealing with cross functional cultures, teams, just your experience on that.
Cool. So I was like lucky enough that like I studied for 1 year in Dublin actually. So this already like brought me to a lot of like international sphere
Oh.
because Dublin is a city for global corporations, right? Also
Mhm.
like Trinity College, the university is really quite international place. And also within like Creative Dog, we had startups like around Europe, which was cool because no matter
Mhm.
whether it was a travel for a client, for some business development, we've traveled a lot, right? So we were fortunate enough to visit, I don't know, like Lisbon Web Summit, right? Malta Blockchain Summit, and these
Yeah.
were all like awesome experiences
Mhm.
that might be got me a bit out of my comfort zone of like
Mhm.
Central Europe, right? To
Mhm.
to just experience like other people, other cultures.
Mhm.
Uh, Battery was actually headquartered in Switzerland, Zurich,
Mhm. Mhm.
and it included developers basically from, so of course, like Czech Republic, which is my home country, Slovakia, then Germany, Switzerland, and even Brazil. We had like a
Mhm.
couple of
Wow.
developers who were either
Nice.
working with us remotely or were
Mhm.
actually like relocated. Uh, so I would say that like on that level, actually even a developer from Spain, it was a learning experience from the matter of like just understanding maybe so understanding first of all different cultures, and then also when traveling to the country, also
Exactly.
understanding how, for example, the living conditions are different, right? So
Mhm.
what I mean in practice is even when I relocated like here to the APEC region, the
Mhm.
first thing I was doing is like every weekend in a different country, right? Just to meet
Yeah.
people and kind
Mhm.
of know from which
Nice.
upbringings even my colleagues at EOS are, right? Because I was used to like European environment, but probably the furthest I was before Singapore was maybe Thailand for vacation, right, or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
So and
Yeah.
this doesn't count, right? But sorry,
Absolutely.
like
This.
back to battery to the original question. Like yeah, generally I would say that Europe is in this way like easy. I would say that much more what I've like understand on some cultural perspective was Switzerland as a brand, you know, or just like how important is it to also get right the non-technical things, but really like label the product in some way, know what the product stands for, and really like do it correctly also on the product and marketing basis. Because if you have some really great vision and meaningful project, then the technology can follow on top of that, right?
Yep,
Yeah,
yep, yep.
yeah. So this was probably more on the cultural level than when it comes to the team, etc. Because I think that everyone was pretty easygoing.
Yeah, and I think that's a great insight, Kuba, in terms of how you know a country or maybe an individual as a brand can portray itself, right? And you mentioned that, and it stands true for individuals also, right? Being a developer, if you are very vocal about your skills, and not when I say vocal, not only through a voice medium but also through your product medium, right? And what kind of aptitude or attitude you had while building that product, or interacting with people, that kind of speaks volumes about what kind of a developer or technology guy you are. So fantastic insights in terms of marketing yourself well, of what you know or what your vision or what your brand is all about, right? Fantastic,
True,
Kuba. I
true.
think
And the same hold
mhm.
true actually even for products and companies. As a newfound friend actually from Singapore said, like you should know what you stand for, right? And you should just like have some values either as an individual
Absolutely.
company or as a product. And large part of that is really not only communicating the values, but like showing them each day, right? And this does a lot because then you are able to gather around other like-minded individuals, right?
Absolutely. I think, there are always purpose-driven companies, right? They have their purposes defined really well, and every individual who is working for that company, they understand that purpose, and they live day in and day out.
True.
And we see a lot of these exercises being done with companies, like purpose, vision, and mission, right? Sometimes it gets stuck into a website lying there somewhere around in the corner, right? But actually it's not. I think if you see successful and good companies, they actually feel and they actually live by what their purpose is, right? And
Yeah.
fantastic. I think not only Vetri, I think your work as creative talk, Kuba, I think it also was quite scintillating, I think, in terms of advising them on multiple innovative projects, or because it's a startup, right? You just kind of it's a fresh company. There's not huge legacy involved around it, right? So how was your what were the major responsibilities as a advisor or as a CTO of creative tech during your stint? Just kind of for our audience, because obviously they will eventually, when they are understanding this journey from developer education, now it's a leader in technology, right? So just want to understand what kind of responsibilities today's CTO entails through your stint at Creative Talk.
Cool, cool. So thanks also for following up on Creative Dog because it's really like a matter of heart. I was mentioning it during
Absolutely.
like
Yes,
the
yes. Yeah.
highlights at the beginning, right?
Yes, it does. It does.
And
Yes.
Creative Dog like is a venture builder, so it's a
Mhm.
startup studio, and basically similarly to my freelancing career, we were developing products that were related to every single buzzword that you can imagine, from like Internet of
Yeah.
Things to blockchain,
Yeah.
to AI and ML. And we were doing a lot of rapid prototyping, right? So probably the
Mhm.
business thinking that I adopted here was
Mhm.
really that you should ideate, then develop the prototype fast, then you should
Mhm.
really fastly test it on the market, right?
Mhm.
And see like whether it works out or not. So probably at that time, these times were really crazy invaluable times because
Mhm.
alongside Contacto and Battery, there were maybe like 10, 20 other projects that just failed,
Oh
that
my.
we just like had to scratch because
Mhm.
in various stages of the product development cycle, they just didn't prove its value on the market, or maybe they did, but the market was not ready for them, or maybe
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
did
Yeah.
not do the proposition correctly, etc. Right? So just to maybe imagine the scope a bit, we were like developing everything from maybe some like insurance application where you take a picture of a car and it detects like what's the damage and what would be the insurance claim, to even starting projects like creating a new neobank, right? And for example, the neobank
Fantastic.
is a failed project, right? And it just did not work out, but like we were really like aspirational. One project that we are proud of, or that we worked on at that time, was called Zonky, and it was like peer-to-peer lending. So
Okay.
generally, like our client was usually some large corporation. In this case, it was, for example, Home Credit, like a money borrower or money lending company. And the brief was basically get us out of the market in 5 years, create a startup that has such a capability, right? And the answer to that was, let's just create a platform where people borrow money to other people,
Correct.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
when the startup was too large, like when it scaled up and started to cover its bills, then we could resolve it to the client like for a success fee, right? So all in all, like I would say that the responsibilities were just managing, maybe at one time even 5 different projects, and these times were totally crazy, but also totally valuable from perspective of like growth and touching up on single individual innovative technology, right?
I know. I think it's like, when you are doing too many things, one of them obviously, and you are doing these things with heart, right? A lot of passion involved, right? So you don't worry about if something fails or not, right? You are only worried about how to make this a successful state, right? And you mentioned that you had a lot of failures, right? And in terms of few of your products not failing. So just kind of from the success, because obviously everyone may be more excited about how much successful you are at this stage of that. But I just want to kind of, for our audience, because it's very important that people see the failures also. It's not just rainbows and sunshine, right? As they say, it's always or sometimes about what failures you achieved and what are the learnings of those failures. Right? So just want to kind of throughout your journey, and especially at when you are developing these fast-paced products, right? So what are those learnings that you kind of get from the failures which you had, just for our audience?
I would say really like not being too much attached to your original idea,
Interesting.
or
Yeah, yeah,
just
yeah.
because now I'm like saying these stories with like smile on my face, right, and very
I
cheerfully,
agree. I
etc. But at
agree.
that time, these were like
It is
depressing
difficult.
times, right? I was
Yes.
totally down, like thinking like, come on, like I cannot even build like a proper product, right? It's like
Yeah, yeah,
failing, the whole world is like doomed, etc., right? And once you have this, then it's like really difficult to like rapidly prototype, right, or develop fast. But once you understand that actually the original idea, you might be onto something, but there's a lot of like pivoting, testing it on the market, etc. You need to be also a bit flexible, and in the end you actually want to build something meaningful that serves someone, right? And if you will be very like stubborn about the thought in your head, like is the best idea, and you will
yeah.
totally ignore that like no one is using it, right? No one wants
Mhm,
that, etc.
mhm, mhm,
Then you will be in trouble. Yeah.
mhm. No, I think you mentioned a very fair point, right? I think as Steve Jobs mentioned, right, in his address to, I think, Stanford, right? You realize your mistake or your learnings by connecting the dots, going backwards, right? And now you have all the smiles, in ear to your smile. But you are right. I think when you were actually facing those problems, you did not realize that, yeah, these are big problems, right? So it's a
Exactly.
big learning, right, for all those people who are who are facing challenges in their career, in their journey. There are always learnings to be to be taken from that, and nothing is permanent, right? Not even your miseries, right? It will go away. So yeah,
Exactly.
good
Exactly.
lessons. Yeah.
And it's also like about just really not giving up and following up, even with the product pivoting, etc. Just to maybe once again like add on top, even at Vetri, We started as the most like dysfunctional team, right? We were like assembled from different projects, and we were like even like arguing, having totally different perspectives on things, etc. But because we worked on it, we really started to be like very sincere and transparent to each other. Now we are like a group of people who does like reunions every half a year. We are the closest friends.
Amazing.
These are the
Yes,
kind of people
yes,
I would call anytime I'm starting something new, right? And
yes.
it's really just because people put work in it, right? They just like
Absolutely.
were not satisfied with the fact that we are really like terrible team and we are not working together. But like step by step, we got to a stage when we are now like best pals, right? So.
Absolutely. I think, you really hit the nail on the head, right? In terms of when you are building something, even though the vision which you have, initially it might not be fulfilled at the end of the day, right? But the journey you took with these folks, right? And that is more valuable. Sometimes the entire journey becomes more valuable than the destination itself. I think what we have also tried to incorporate this, Kuba, in our journey in Recro's journey is that everyone who whatever candidate, whenever they are kind of interacting with our folks, right, for any of the opportunities, right, even they, some of them will get opportunity to work, some of them might not, go through the interviews round, or someone
Mhm.
might not
Mhm.
get through the client round, but our larger purpose is that they become a part of a larger goal, a larger community, right? Our community, we have a developer community called a Rebase, right, where irrespective of whether you are part of our team or not, it's a developer community where you can come in, you can kind of and that's where your trust comes, right? You mentioned it's the trust that you guys have built it, right? And that's the kind of trust we are trying to build through these
True.
ecosystems.
True, and and also thanks for mentioning like your platform generally. As I was also mentioning like previously, given the topic and maybe like yeah, given the topic at hand, even the area or domain, you might be all the time either in mentor or mentee position or in some peer position, but
Yeah,
it like
yeah,
changes, right? Like you will be never expert of in all things. So it's like more about like the roles, responsibilities, but
right.
all the time you have to accept that there's some topic where someone can teach you or you can teach someone else, right? And these
Absolutely.
kind of communities totally respect that, right? Because you answer questions that you are knowledgeable about, or and you allow yourself to be helped by others if you are not an
Absolutely.
expert.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And yes, certainly, I think a lot of these roles are kind of misunderstood, right? The role of community and especially developer
Mm,
community, right? And ours is I think, we have done some, team has, and everyone has kind of done a good job in terms of creating this very thriving community where everyone get is getting involved. It's huge transparency, right? Yeah. So I
true.
think that was about trust, community, and all those things. You know, just one small, I think, while I was kind of going through your entire journey, Kuba, very interesting, I think, the work you did at Twisto, right? Because generally it is a perceived notion that, CTOs or the tech people, they, they hardly had to do something with, the acquisition, because they are more of a builder's guy, right? They don't have to do, kind of negotiate or on the, on the table with valuations or,
Mm,
VCs and all, right? But interestingly, you had a huge role at Twisto, right, in kind of getting to the entire process of funding, right, and all those things that involved them raising a huge money, right? So how was that experience? Because obviously, when you are building product for the consumers, right, this should always also come to mind, right? So just want to, pick your brains on your work at Twisto, right, in obviously
mm.
in raising funds, and how did you envision that? Yeah.
Cool, cool. So at that time, like just skipping maybe a bit the history, we were already like launching new markets, mainly like in Europe, right? We've gained some experience with like product prioritization, maybe stability of our infrastructure. We were making some decisions, whether the data center should be based in that country or whether it should be like run on cloud, etc. And the team was scaling up, right? So we like the team that we had when it comes to engineering was maybe like 80 or more engineers, and already we had to figure out like even how to build the structure of the team, right? From like some engineering directors responsible for some stream
Exactly.
to like tech leads, team leads, and then like their team members. Uh, Generally, we or like the business discussions were really led by our CEO and COO. What was
Mm-hmm.
super important is that Zip, which is the company that was acquiring us or
Acquired,
interested in
yeah,
us,
yeah.
which is basically buy now pay later sector. So like Klarna's, Revoluts of the
Mm-hmm.
world, Zip is in that category.
Correct,
uh,
correct. Mm-hmm.
we figured out that
Mm-hmm.
they have the same mindset. So I think that the cultural thing
Mm-hmm.
was really like important, that we knew that they have similar history, similar values, but it just comes that they've
Mm-hmm.
launched in Australia and it's a larger market than ours, right? And
Mm-hmm.
this was like a huge even maybe unlocker for the follow-up discussions.
Mm-hmm.
The thing how we could contribute to that from technical perspective was due diligence, and the due diligence itself
Okay.
was like a very stressful process, right? Because
It
it
is,
was
yeah.
really
Yeah.
gathering a lot of documentation. As a financial institution, we were
Mm-hmm.
like audited, so we already
Mm-hmm.
had, we were ahead of the communication, but still there was a lot to do.
Mm-hmm.
And also during such like negotiations,
Mm-hmm.
you still have to accept the fact that there's some probability that it won't work out, right? So you still have to be like crystal clear, focused on the current product development priorities, because you have to still do the strategy. Okay, we are on our own. Can we fund this new market? We cannot, right? Etc. And
Mm-hmm.
in at the same time, invest a lot of your like effort and focus into
Mm-hmm.
really providing all of the like documentation for decision making, right? And
Right.
also meeting with a lot of people, presenting them what we have, right? Being audited, a lot of due diligence, etc. So I would say that like, once again, amazing thing, because really just undergoing this exercise gives one a lot, but it's also some time of like huge insecurity, right? Because
Yeah,
you
it is
you
right,
you know
because
that you have to battle on
because
both battlefronts. Yeah.
absolutely, I think, and you really, when you mentioned that, there has to be because obviously Zip is it's a huge company, right? $1 billion market share and all these things, and there was interest shown by Zip, and it was both the parties, right? But still, you started with new line that there has to be a common culture, or there has to be some synergy that needs to be there between both the parties, right? and and I think that's where I was kind of my emphasis is on that, even though you are even if you are an individual or you are a company, whenever you are joining a firm or doing some work for any other company, right, there is always a sense of synergy, of culture, of and culture is not just what perks you are getting. It's always how maybe a big company like Zip will treat a smaller company like Twister. That's a big thing. And you being a CTO, sometimes or in technical side, care of technical side, you might not be very. People might not think that, okay, technical people might not care about culture or values, right? But they do, right? It's very important, because you should be in good ecosystem, should be in good environment to get the best out of the people. And I'm glad you
To-
mentioned that culture
Totally.
becomes focal point of any conversation, right? Be it like between companies, between individuals, where there is some symbiotic relationship. Yeah. Thanks for thanks for
Totally,
thanks
totally.
for mentioning that
Just
as
want
a
to,
focal point. Yeah.
yeah, just want to mention that really like being acquired by someone where it wouldn't be a match, it would be basically just maybe coloring your logo in the same color as that whatever company
Absolutely. Yeah,
acquires
yeah,
you,
yeah,
but there would be
yeah.
like no value and people would leave, right? And also one thing that I really want to mention like very clearly, at that time, like I was holding a position of head of engineering, right? There was like COO,
Mm-hmm.
like CEO, CTO, CFO, and everyone on
Mm-hmm.
the team really had to contribute, right? So it was a huge team effort. And if there wasn't a buy-in from the entire team, like from everyone who was on board at that time, it wouldn't happen, right? Because it's not like no matter whether it was the technical part, the financials, whether it was like the marketing, etc., or product, if
Mm-hmm.
people wouldn't like trust it and wouldn't have the buy-in, like this is the thing that will like turn us into global company, and did not
Mm-hmm.
contribute, we wouldn't make it, right? It's like that.
Right.
Even without the buy-in and without knowing that Zip is a company that we want to be acquired by, it would be a disaster. Yeah.
No, absolutely. I think you mentioned that you had all the C suits right with you, and they all of them have to work in tandem to take a decision for the company, right? Just kind of on the same lines, Kuba. These are all
Mhm.
mentors. These are all guiding lights for as an organization, right? You must be having some during your professional journey, from engineer to head of engineering to CTO, right? You might have seen a lot of mentors that have played a huge role, right? And just want to understand how these guys influenced your career choices, or maybe kind of guided you where you are right now. Because for
Mm,
as a company, dealing with a lot of developers, we are highly focused on not just being someone who are providing opportunities, but also being like a guiding light to these folks, right? And hence
mm,
just want to
mm,
kind of
mm,
understand your journey from mentor's perspective. Who were your guiding light, and what it did to influence
mm,
your professional career?
mm. Uh, I'll take it again from university, and really like
Yes, that's best,
one
because
person
that's
that I
the
want to.
base journey. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely, yes.
these are the roots, and it would be like my teacher of statistics, right? It's
Oh, nice.
really like someone who really ignited. As I've mentioned, I never liked math. This was the moment when I started to love it, right? So he had to do something right, the
Yes.
same was probably even for my actually even I can go back to like primary school teacher, right? Because
Mhm.
the reason why I was like into MMOCs and education, etc., is also his huge attribution, right? Because if
Maybe
there's
yes,
a
certainly.
person who sparks a passion inside you, like for teaching others, right, then it stays with you, right? On like
Mm.
business level, I would say that there are way too many people to name like at Creative Dog, because really the whole company had a very great way of pulling talent from different places. Let it be junior but passionate people, let it be like super senior, previous company
Mm.
owners, and everyone you talk to was like golden, right? It was like a Silicon Valley kind of
Mm.
talks, right? So it was
Yeah.
amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And last but not least, I would probably also like to give credits to like COO at Twisto, because so her name is Renata,
Mm-hmm.
and like
Nice.
she really, even
Yeah.
though we were not collaborating all the time super directly, she really allowed me to understand that you have to still like keep the startup culture, still like make everything engaging, etc. But in order to like drive business results as well, you have to find the proper balance where you can like be
Mm-hmm.
focused on the numbers, as she all the time like said,
Yeah, yeah.
while still like not losing
Very
the
true.
reason
Yeah.
why people join the company, right? And
Very true. Very true. I
and
think.
and, and
Mm-hmm.
and I can maybe even then go like outside the my
Go
professional
ahead, please.
network, but
Yes,
please,
yes.
yeah, because there are like really many people that influenced me during the MOOC era, right? So one person that you might know is like Salman Khan, founder of the
Oh,
Khan Academy. Yeah.
interesting.
And he was always a role model because he's an
Yeah, he
educator.
was. He was. Yes,
Plus,
he
he built a
was.
great business, right? So it's
Absolutely,
like
absolutely.
the best of both worlds, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Andrew Ng, Daphne Collar, like
Mm-hmm.
founders of
Mm-hmm.
Coursera,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yes, yes.
This was
Coursera,
huge.
yes.
Yeah, and maybe just a secret crush, because I remember like very very mindfully the book that I had. It's actually a book called Mining the Social Web, and
Mm-hmm.
it was written by Matthew Russell. And I
Oh,
think that just the reason why I started to be interested in like data mining,
right.
productionalizing my code, maybe even then protecting the information from infosec perspective rather than just mining it, everything started there, right? And I'm very sure that he doesn't know who I am, but I
Absolutely.
remember him very clearly, because when I was reading the book, everything was golden, right? And many of my interests sparked there. Yeah.
I think very really fascinating, right? Kubai pointed at that mentors may not be like physical people who are actually interacting with you. It can be, books, podcast series, videos. It can be anything, right? It's just a matter of chance, or you have to be at the right place at the right time. With right folks to kind of identify these moment of. Maybe serendipity or whatever you can call them, but yeah, these kind of moments do play a big role in kind of moving or guiding your career. I think fantastic observation.
Totally,
Perfect, I
totally. And
think.
also, one thing that was like, I don't know whether it was a meme or quote, and it was a bit morbid, so sorry for that. But
It's
it was
okay.
that someone was saying that like his or her like greatest teachers or mentors might be like already dead, because these are people thousand years before, right? Like books that
Yeah,
were
they
written
are.
like in
Yes,
past
yes,
centuries, and
yes.
they still like bring so much value, that you are like maybe virtually with that person, right? They are
Yeah, I
still
think
there. Yeah.
a big example is like during our conversation, I think I quoted two people, both are dead, right? And and that's, I think, they have left something, I think,
Yeah,
that we are all
they have
valuing
some
right now.
legacy.
I think it's fantastic. I think, yeah. Cool. I think, on that note, I think, just kind of, you mentioned that, during your entire journey, I think a lot of people who were kind of helping you, or maybe, if not by chance, just by design, right, kind of help you grow what you are at. And a lot of our audience, in terms of, from technical perspective, are, they might become engineering managers or technical lead, where they want to scale their team up, right? And you did it at Deep Road, right, where you were at the helm of kind of, handling very fast high scale team, right? So what are your advices if someone is trying to kind of scale their team really fast, right? So what are your,
Mm.
kind of, top three things that they should be doing to kind of scale their team in the right direction at right pace, right?
Mm.
So your thoughts on that,
Mm.
and what are your advices to these guys?
Yeah. So, probably the first one is really the point that we've touched on previously, which is like finding a good balance
Mm-hmm.
between like reinventing the wheel and developing the processes and new roles, etc., together with the team, while already a bit at least knowing like where is it heading. So what I like mean in practice is that with larger teams, you also need to like standardize more things, but it also
Mm-hmm.
can result in a bit of like bureaucracy and like pushback, right? And
Correct. Mm-hmm.
as long as the team is involved in like developing the processes and basically imposing some rules on themselves, because there's a huge trust that it benefits the whole team, it's much more valuable than something that comes top down, and that's like, for example, copy and paste it from another organization or
Yeah.
from like past
Happens
experience,
is.
etc. Because it doesn't work. First of all, because no one understands why such a rule exists. And second
Mm-hmm.
of all, maybe even in the meantime, I don't know, like 5 years, when someone like switched a job, the area and the lessons learned also developed. So like the old process is no longer valid, right? It needs to like
Correct.
actively developed, right? So I would say that like just like leading the team, but not like imposing some like hard rules, because these rules
Mm-hmm.
need to be developed together with the team and also reflect the size of the team, because maybe you can be like mature in one process and less mature in another process as design decision, because the team is not large enough yet to just even have such a restriction or something like this.
Correct.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And maybe one other thing that I very clearly remember, like from all other past roles, and this is maybe more to the extent or more frequent with people who are not people managers, who want to like
Mm-hmm.
follow up purely engineering pathway. And first of all, I'm like super supportive of that, because I really think that it's necessary
Mm-hmm.
to bear in mind that like providing great technical value matters. You don't have to
It
like
does. It does.
manage people to grow in seniority. But sometimes it means that you really might be hiring your own manager, right? And sometimes it really means that you can be like super
Correct.
senior in a particular technology, and your manager won't be as senior, right? Like they really, because you are a specialist, you are really someone
Mhm.
who can architect, who can like write clean code, etc. And maybe you will be like having your one-on-ones and like goal setup, etc., with someone who provides the value in another way. And this is
Mhm.
sometimes even important for technical founders, because even now in my role, at
Mhm.
EOS, being a VP of
Mhm. Mhm.
engineering is a
Mhm.
great start, because I have a option. Okay, we will
Mhm.
be like rapidly scaling. Is that challenge that I want to take on? Do I need engineering managers, or do I need to hire a CTO that's like, above me, and really can
Mhm.
like make sure that the things are happening, right? So basically no ego battles, I would I would summarize
Mhm.
it.
Yeah, I think perfectly summarized. I think in short, what I'll just kind of summarize it for our audience, right? And
Hmm.
this is something that we can also relate very efficiently, Kuba, because we also deal in talent, right? And we also deal in people, right? So what we do and what I think you mentioned is identifying competencies of individuals, right? What their competencies are, and trying to match that competency with their future aspiration, right? If someone's aspiration is there, and he or she possesses the competency to kind of climb up to that aspiration, then you just have to kind of pave a path for them, right? And we,
Totally.
for every exercise that we do at Recro, we have devised an equation called, we call it a cow equation. It's called
Hmm.
competency, aspiration, and opportunity, right? And if someone is having a competency and an aspiration, then obviously there is an opportunity for them, right? This entire equation needs to
Cool.
fit in for people to kind of land a job maybe, or work really efficiently in that particular job, right? And if any out of these variables goes haywire, then the existence becomes difficult or becomes challenging. So I think fantastic when you
Cool.
when you
Cool.
summarize that
Uh,
it's always about identifying attitude and competency of people. Yes.
cool. And after this chat, I will definitely Google for that framework. I like the abbreviation, the name. Yeah.
It is not a framework. I think you might not find it in Google. It's just kind of reiterated with our exercises, right? Because we are dealing in like hundred of talent coming into our
Uh-huh.
ecosystem, right? So it's very important for us to kind of understand competencies, understand aspirations, understand what they're looking for and how they're looking for, because these things changes quite frequently, right? What was their aspirations 5 years then, it's not now, right?
True.
And the industry
True.
changes, right? Everything has I think you have mentioned it rightly, when you were transitioning from one role to other, that the cycle is become shorter and shorter, right? The
Yeah.
moment
Yeah.
you are transitioning from one role to other, right? So that we have to keep
Totally.
in mind. Yeah.
Totally. And
Good.
also,
I think
also like
fantastic. We'll have
life,
a different
life
chat
phases,
on
right?
that, Kuba.
Yeah. I
Exactly.
mean,
Yes.
just
Yes.
like even
Yes.
life
Yes.
phases of that person, because you will have a totally different like career pathway, passions, etc., for a person who's freshman from a university versus someone who's just
Yeah.
starting a family, right? And this will change over
Mm-hmm.
time. And just
Exactly.
like accepting that is really like necessary, because you need to still customize whatever you have in there, like for that particular person.
Perfect. Yeah. Well said. Very well said. I think it's all. It's like in today's world, your what you do personally also has huge impact on your work, right? And that's what you're saying. Cool. I think from what you have done in your past, let's come to what you're doing right now, Kuba. I think it's very
Mm,
important for our audience to understand what is your day, what does a day look like at IO Startup One, in terms of what are you doing being a VP engineering, how are you solving things, what are your roles and responsibility, and obviously keeping in mind that our audience is highly tech focused and they want to understand
mhm.
the actual work that you are doing. Yeah, please.
Got it. Got it. So, like when I was joining EOS, like the company was maybe missing a tech leadership for some time.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I was like also maybe, and I also want to mention it for the sake of audience, because it's my personal value, and I think every engineer should do it like that. Which is like still keeping in touch with the previous company and making sure that the transition like works out both ways, right? So for example, even with the transition to EOS, it was like super slow. I really wanted to know that at Twister I don't break anything, that really like the team will be stable, and maybe someone can like step up, and just like everything will be nice and neat, and not to maybe disqualify EOS. First of all, know that I have like the buy-in from the whole team. So really like spend, a lot of one-on-one time with like every single engineer, just to really know that I'm wanted at EOS, right? That I really like have the buy-in from the team, and they see like value in my role. And I think that it's really like necessary, because the tendency of a person might be, let's do it in 2 weeks, right? Let's use like the vacation days, etc., to make it as fast as possible. But in the end, you are just like working with people all the time. You have some assembled group of people who are working on a meaningful project, and you should keep that network. And in the end, we are just a group of people just investing our time into something that we find meaningful, right? And we need to bear this in mind, because we are in this like together, and we should not create like a problem elsewhere, because in the end we are all like developing this ecosystem, right? So so this was one thing that I wanted to mention. But on like my daily schedule or daily agenda, I'm a early morning person. So I wake up at 5 a.m. I go for a run, and during that run, I know that it's not yet time when APAC region is awake, because it's too early, and like EMEA region is still asleep, right? So it's like the best time for basically drafting ideas, listening, I don't know, to MIT lectures, sorting out your thoughts on various topics, and it's really like pure focus time in its like best form, right? And yeah, so this is what I do in the morning, and then like we have a couple of objectives within the tech team. There are like things that are more related to building a community. So even like this opportunity that you have provided me like is part of it, right? Because we really want to share our know-how, battle test our knowledge, right, and be visible. And also work as a team. But other than that, we are focused on like revenue generation, also resolving our technical debt, and also like improving quality of our data, right? And once we have such objectives that are set up like for the tech team, but are in a way like company-wide, my daily responsibility is really like facilitated as much as possible. So I'm a huge like believer in servant leadership. So really just, being a facilitator rather than someone who has the last word, or who always, I'm talkative. So sometimes I have to like, the best meeting is when I don't mention anything, just gather what everyone says and summarize it, right? Because my nature is a bit different. But really, my huge goal is to like create a strategy around it, bring people together, and just facilitate that we are able to deliver. And once again, still like check in that everyone has a buy-in in what we are doing, right? As a technical leader in particular, I'm also the one who's rooting for like the platform development, right? So I'm the one who should back up like NFRs, who should just back up that we need to have a solid infrastructure, and that we are like resolving technical debt like continuously and responsibly. Yeah. Maybe one last.
Still,
I do. Whenever I have a chance to like to set up like the repo and really like check like some of the pull requests, but I never commit, because it's just that at this point it would be maybe more damage than value.
And obviously it will be kind of doing injustice to your team, because obviously they
but
have
but
the
but I have to keep
entire control.
my
Anyways, I
skills
think
like
fantastic.
right.
Mhm.
Yeah, I have to keep still
Mm.
my skills like
Good.
sharpened. So with me,
Mhm.
it's really that I try to still discover new programming languages, technologies, etc. But I always stop myself now at the prototype stage. I can like give a
Mhm.
recommendation, but I
Mhm.
think that really now if I like went to repositories of like some of the teams
Mm.
and I would do like
Mhm.
my wild pull request, as I've mentioned, I would probably do like more damage than value.
Absolutely. I think talking about recommendation, Kuba, I think uh, what do you recommend in the current lot of developers to how should they kind of what activities they should do in kind of in such industry. It's we say like it's a very volatile word, volatile industry, right? Technology industry. So what are your key things that they should be doing to kind of stay relevant and adapt to these situations? Just
Mm.
few kind of thoughts of yours so that they can gather few things from your experience. Yeah.
Mm. I would say that the keyword that you've really mentioned is the volatile keyword because even when you look,
Mm,
for example, at the Gartner hype curve, etc., and you do some like retrospective analysis of it, some of the things we've never heard about
mm,
afterwards, some of the things like made it, some of the things maybe were a
mm.
bit of a bubble, and then like they didn't
Did not.
work out. So I guess that like at least I don't have a silver bullet, but what I do myself, and I can like share that, is really with every new buzzword technology, whatever is like currently popular and it's supposed to be the next big thing. I really still like learn about it and start prototyping in it,
Mm-hmm.
right? Just to like keep myself
Mm-hmm.
just up to speed and also like aware of all of the new development. That said, there's like way too many things to capture, so you should be still open to these new technologies and innovate, because without innovation, really we would be like dead even as a company, right? We still need to innovate and bring new stuff, and this is part of it. But you also have to keep focus, right? So you need to know where your value is, and let it be like that you are DevOps specialist, then find like how this new technology, or DevOps engineer, how this new technology like fits into your profile. The same with me, like as a technical leader, right? If I discover that now I'm like really again into after Contacto, like NLP and generative AI, etc.
Mm-hmm.
I should not start just like once again like giving or passing pull requests to my team, like implementing such features into their repos, right? It just doesn't make sense. But it's more like still learning constantly and knowing how to make this technology relevant to your role profile, and how to utilize it, right?
Fantastic. I think I want to talk to you for more than an hour now, and I would just want to continue this, Kuba. But I think we have, obviously your schedule is also quite limited, and we have also kind of time limitation. But just kind of
Mm,
closing thoughts in terms of advices to industry, or maybe to companies who are hiring these folks, or to the audience of this podcast. What are the two or three critical things that
mm,
currently they should be doing to stay kind of abreast with technologies? I obviously you mentioned few things, right?
mm.
To industry leaders, right? And what are your thoughts for them, and how they should tackle this current volatility, or VUCA world, as they say, right? Yeah. So, yeah, thoughts on that.
It's a tricky question, right? Because as I've mentioned, I don't have a silver bullet, right? And maybe this is also like a good answer,
Mhm.
right? So maybe
Mhm.
just like don't necessarily like look into patterns in my story, right? Because
Mm.
just like
Mm.
retrospectively, we are able to just justify everything. I was telling you like about how
Yeah,
it's great
yeah.
that we were doing this rapid like prototyping in creative doc pivoting, etc. But at these times these were really like miserable moments, right? Full of like disappointment, etc. So generally, like just keeping on learning and working on
Mm-hmm.
whatever you find like meaningful and innovative, just like does the trick,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you
Mm-hmm.
will still collect a lot of like advices and ideas from other people, what they were doing,
Mm-hmm.
but in the end you need to find your own path, right? And so like generally I would really say don't necessarily look for just any patterns. Really find your way, listen to the advice of others, right? But you also have to have your own opinion, and you are in your specific situation, and you need to do something with your life. And the second one would be probably just also creating opportunities for others, because I think that it's also super important, as I was mentioning, transitioning from Twisto to EOS means opportunity
Mm-hmm.
for myself, but also, for example, the next like CTO in Twisto, by the way, is one of the engineers
Mm.
who worked with on battery. So, so it's
Oh,
just like
nice.
you really made a
Very
huge
nice.
like step up. So and if you take it
Right.
responsibly, you can multiply the opportunities, right, and create them on
Absolutely.
both ends, right? And generally just any form of like I would say, yeah, like things globally sounds like a cliche, but I really like think that in the end we are once again we are in it together, and we should like still kind of ask ourselves whether the things that we are doing make sense, and whether it's like contributing to things or whether it's like destroying something, right? Because we are a community of people, and it's up to us, like how our parents were telling us, right, that like now it's your turn. You are supposed to save the world, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So like it's important to have that in mind. There's really like no one who will do it for us, right? So we should just keep in mind that we are like one global community, and we should help each other with whatever the person has in mind,
Mm.
rather than just putting or throwing something in the path of the person, right, and blocking them from progress.
And very well said. I think, Kuba, I think, it becomes ever so relevant to kind of not only look within, right, in terms of what you are doing, but also look outside, from within you to outside, right? And in today's world, it's ever so relevant. And I can't thank enough to kind of making your time out, Kuba, for this wonderful session. I think it was, I really enjoyed it. I hope you did too. And more important, our audience, in terms of they could gather few insights from your amazing journey. I really, really thank you from the bottom of my heart, and loved your energy. I think throughout 1 hour and 1 hour 15 minutes, I was always smiling. Your energy is so ecstatic, and you kind of you are transmitting it to the audience, and it's so eclectic, right? Thank you so much, Kuba, for taking time, and hope we can meet soon and have a lot of conversations on the frameworks we mentioned, on life in general, and obviously how we can take this forward. Okay. Thank you so
Yeah.
much, Kuba. Thank you so much
Thanks.
for joining
Thanks a
us.
lot as well, for the opportunity. Also could talk for ages. Was really like a blast. And my sincere hope is that it will help someone to just like take the plunge, and
Absolutely.
see that, yeah, I have my dark moments as well, but you can always just, get up and follow. Yeah.
There is always light at the end of the tunnel.